Hi all. As I said before, my name is Wanda Waker. I'm Global Communications Director. So I'd like first of all to welcome you to this email and thank you for joining us. We will be talking today about gamification. We are going to have 4 speakers during this session. First of all, we will hear from Andres Ancelani. Andres is our Chief Solutions Officer here at GlobeOn. Then we will also hear from Carolina Dolan, the Technical Director from the Gaming Studio at GlobeOn. After that, from Juan Pedro Pereira, Technology Partner from our Global Creative and Social Studio. And Reed Maloney from the Amazon Web Services. He's the Product Manager at AWS. This webinar is hosted by GlobeOn and Amazon Web Services. And during the event, we will talk about, first we will give a brief overview of GlobeOn. We will also talk about Amazon Web Services, a brief overview of that as well. After that, we will dive into the gamification aspect. We will talk about the experience and about what is gamification. We will talk about how to create a gamification experience through a digital engagement platform. We will follow on with the infrastructure and how to reach consumers across devices. And after that, we will have some minutes to discuss some Q&A. As you may see in the WebEx tool, in your right column, the last box is a Q&A box. So feel free to send all the questions that you have during the webinar. We will receive all the questions throughout this hour, and we will answer them. We will address them at the end of the talk. So, well, again, thank you all for being here, and I will leave you with Andres Ancelani.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for being on the webinar and spending this time with us. I am responsible for developing GlobeOn's practices and solutions, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of who we are. We help our clients create digital experiences, and we develop end-to-end software from design through engineering and QA, and we also develop and run products on the cloud, mostly using AWS. GlobeOn has 8 studios. We are about 2,700 people in total, operating in 6 countries, all the Americas and Europe, 2 continents, and we leverage emerging technology and market trends to create solutions. So basically our job is to build intellectual property for our clients. We work mostly with Fortune 500 companies, and what we do is we combine our solutions framework and our professional services to develop content-rich, mostly revenue-generating digital products for web, mobile, gaming consoles, and smart TVs. We also build customer engagement and e-commerce platforms, video games, and custom design tools for 3D films. That's kind of overall what we do. You can see some of the brands that we work for on the slide there. We also, we have incorporated new companies in the past years, and our specialization in mobile has increased quite a lot during the last year through a US acquisition being connected. And that's about it on my end. I will now pass it on to Reed, who is going to introduce AWS.
Great, thanks, Andres. Well, if you haven't heard about AWS, we are a cloud computing provider, and on the left, what you can see is really the comprehensive set of services that we provide. We've been able to develop so many services because we really pioneered this space of cloud computing, and we've been doing it since 2006. So we have a global infrastructure with 9 different regions, which I'll be talking a little bit more about later. We have networking services, we have computing, storage, and database services, and we have a host of different application and deployment and administration services. And bringing all these services together, our customers have really been able to realize significant benefits. The main ones are they're really able to deploy better products faster. And the reason is they don't have to focus on the infrastructure anymore. They can really focus on the application or the web application that they're really working on, instead of having to spend really important and really scarce engineering time actually scaling and managing the infrastructure. And so some of the companies like Netflix and PBS, they've really been able to bring out lots of different services that reach across many different devices very, very quickly by being able to focus their engineering time on those, on the actual services. We also, all these services are really low cost. What we're able to do is leverage our massive scale to then lower our overall cost structure and pass that lower cost structure on to our customers in the form of lower prices. And so, for example, we have customers like Samsung, whose Smart Hub app saved $34 million on just that application. Lamborghini's another example, running all their marketing websites with AWS, where they've saved 50% running those websites with us. And then with security is our number one priority. We have teams of people whose only job is to actually focus on the security of our infrastructure. And to back that up, we have a long list of accreditations. Accreditations like ISO 27001, SOC 1, and even FISMA Moderate, which is a accreditation that says AWS's infrastructure is secure enough for sensitive federal government applications. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Juan, who's going to talk more about specifically gamification with GlobeOn, and then we'll get back into some specifics about how our cloud computing platform really helps you to run your gamification experiences.
Thank you so much, Reed. Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Pereira. I'm going to talk about the experience and how gamification fits within a user experience development process, and some real-world examples of that, and how we can change drastically an experience for a user in any kind of environment, really. So, first of all, definitions are in order. So what is gamification? Basically, the use of game mechanics and game design in non-gaming contexts. So this is very specific. As most of you know already, UX is all about engagement, and how the user relates at different levels, both practical and emotional, with the tool or with the context in which they have to perform certain tasks. So gamification comes very, very handy as a tool to drastically improve user engagement in certain diverse environments. So some of them are very so some of the first utilizations of gamification that we've seen are in education, in marketing. So advertising industry and the education industry have seen very early on the benefits of making an experience more enjoyable to the user, and also directly targeting some emotional responses from the user. The one example of education might be the Deloitte Leadership Academy. If you go also to the fantheory.com, you'll find many design-oriented ideas that were taken to reality using gamification theory. So very interesting concepts right there. Moving forward, so within our process, how we make this a reality for the user. So we start with our standard user experience process. We mix in game mechanics or extensive experience from the gaming industry, So Kara's going to talk a little bit more about that, but basically all that we know about console gaming, hardcore gaming, and so on, and take that to a regular user experience of, let's say, an e-commerce platform. And then the third digital delivery platform, which is what Kara is going to focus more on. So again, you need the three of them. Game mechanics by themselves can be useful on very, very specific environments. Let's say comes to mind badging system, comes to mind a leaderboard system. Unless you properly analyze what really motivates the user in a certain environment, those might not be very useful. And unless you have a proper digital platform that allows you to quickly develop and implement all those game mechanics features, again, the final experience might be rendered useless. So that's from a very high level point of view. So we all live with gamification nowadays. So if you use Twitter or Pinterest, you probably are used to collection of items and building a profile of yourself on the web. That's what the social is all about. That's what collection of items is all about. If you use LinkedIn or Nike Plus, you're probably very familiar with the concept of completeness, of reaching a goal and completing milestones and moving forward up a ladder of progress. Again, on the social sphere as well, we see social proof. It's also part of gamification, how you interact with other people and what's your position in that social graph, and how through gamification you can evolve and win extra recognition within your social circles. And badges in its own are collectible items that surprise the user. And the elements of surprise is something I'm going to touch on just in a few minutes, but it's very important to gamification. Or brains, and if you go to the theoryofFun.com, you will see that at work. Our brains are hardwired to react very in a very positive manner to those kind of surprise elements, good surprises. We always we're trying all the time to know how things work. It's an unconscious, not conscious activity in which we try to find out how things work. So if you suddenly get a badge from Foursquare, okay, you're just all about it. Oh, good, this works because I've been X many times to a certain place. So what happens if I do the same with a different place? You try to get another badge that you not necessarily know that exists. So again, badges make a lot of use of the surprise elements. Who's already doing it? So for starters, many big companies have realized the value of this, and as any initial trend or new technology, there's a time in which the industry figures out how we will use it. So I mentioned education and advertising at first. So American Express, that would fit in the more advertising e-commerce world. Deloitte has used that for their internal training tools. Foursquare is more than evident. Salesforce is using gamification within their Salesforce platform to entice, salesperson to sell more, to compete, and in the form of leaderboards and social communication tools such as Chatter. SAP is also going down the same route in that area, eBay, and those are probably examples that we can relate more easily to. So again, what I like to make, the focus on, you will see gamification everywhere in the form of, again, badging systems, leaderboards, and all sorts of reward systems. However, that's only a manifestation of that. That's only one implementation. And it really requires a tight-knit UX process to make that a reality, and a platform that can support that kind of engagement. So a few numbers. This is actually the definition of viral. Mostly anything that is gamified will go viral very, very quickly. The Birds franchise, 350 million users, Foursquare's 20 million, Pinterest 11 million, and growing very, very quickly. And also generating a lot of, so Foursquare, you might measure that in terms of millions of people, and that's very, that's very tied to their business. But Pinterest is even more interesting in the sense that it creates data, it creates useful information about the users and how they interact with each other. It's a much richer social network, if you will. And Nike Plus, 1.3 million Nike Plus iPod Sports Kit, and 500,000 sports fans. So moving forward, Terrace is a huge global company. They make pipes, basically, for the oil industry and various other industries. They've been around for a while. They're a very structured company, process-oriented, but they saw the need to better organize the information on their intranets. So, again, we went through the UX process with the internal users. Here you can see a progress. This is, the amount of users actively using in their daily work the intranet. And you can see how it grows. This is over a select focus group, of course, how it grows over time. And most of the success that we had in this specific product was, again, implementing gamification features. In this case, leaderboards for the most helpful users, and content creation badging system. So you would be rewarded by for creating and organizing content. This is a very similar approach to the one you see in Wikipedia. Probably Wikipedia is a little bit more softer, but basically it is to create a social circle in which each one has a role and each one has a function and is rewarded for that. So what we looked for is to reward users for being themselves and for being useful to the community. For the sake of time, I might just go very quickly over this one. DevHub this is the TechCrunch example. You can see the amount of active users and the amount of activity. The amount of purchases and activity within the social blog that you get month after month after embracing gamification features. Just one last bit. So one of the things that we usually, in which we spend a lot of time with our clients, and I think it's one of the most useful, is how is the best way of evolving a product into a gamified or a social experience. So that's one of the most. So how do we start? What's the path that we should follow? So basically, there are two big ways. One is you have an already existing product and you need to add a few features and see how that works. That's our Pogo example, then we'll see that in just a minute. And the other one is I have a product from scratch or somehow a platform I want to evolve. So this is kind of a platform from scratch kind of approach. This is what you're looking at is a series of comps of content delivery platform, basically to watch videos, to read books, and to listen to music. It's a sort of a iTunes-like, if you will, very much oriented to this kind of content. And it also features skinability and targets multiple niche markets. So where we started putting together the idea for the product. So the main concept would be the content. And behind the content, you also need a community. You need to be able to build a community that fosters the creation of content and the distribution of that content. And the third aspect would be gamification. So how you reward people for being a part of that community. So let's say that you bought the latest movie for Justin Bieber, who's right there, and you also read the book, and you also listened to all the available CDs from the same artist. So then you would be identified by the gaming platform as a maven for that specific artist or that specific style of music or video. So that's what we want to foster. Say, okay, we recognize what kind of person you are, what you like, and we understand that, and therefore we action on that. So basically, that's how we then merge the leaderboards, the badging systems, and all of the out-of-the-box features within that user experience and user identification framework. So I will move a little bit faster since I'm a little bit over time so far. So Mogul.us, another platform. This is very social platform oriented to the Hollywood industry. So social networks that connect ideas, movies, artists, and again we reward that kind of content creation and sharing activities. In Pogo, slightly different example in which to entice the user to again be part of that community, we created a avatar system which again you create your own self, person, mini, scene maker, and that proved to increase purchases by 15%. And along with the integration of Facebook Connect, we really boosted up logins and user registrations. I'm gonna quickly skip maybe I should just briefly comment on this one. Planet X is literally bringing console games to the web, so playing games for cash rewards. Very direct and very enticing, like almost a full-featured mini-gaming platform oriented to advertising and gaming. Marketing platforms. So again, that's our run on UX and gamification. I hope I can answer some interesting questions later. So, Caro, all yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolina Dolan. I'm one of the technical directors within GlobeOn, and I'm going to be talking about what comes behind this. Juan just spent some time going over the definition of what is gamification, and then he went into some examples. But I'd like to circle back a little bit to the theory of it, to the core of it. The key when gamifying is truly understanding what the goal is. Usually one has as a goal to make your site, your product, whatnot, to be as engaging and as entertaining to your users as possible. And that's what we try to do. The complexity in that is that it is always something different. There is no boxed or canned solution that will apply to every single case. There are cases like the USA Network Psych story, where what they did was take the TV shows outside of the TV and bring them into your home, into your iPad, creating a second experience and creating games around that experience. So truly the sky or the budget ends up being the limit to what can be done and what cannot be done. And then it all comes down to what we can do on the technical side to support this. Being such a complex situation where we can do tons of different things, we usually divide the pieces of the solution into what we refer to as building blocks. The whole experience has to be supported by a consistent technology solution that leverages whoever company is or whoever is building the solutions, existing software, existing infrastructure, existing pieces, open source solutions, licensed solutions, and custom built solutions. We even incorporate our own custom components that to leverage everything to create a cost-effective solution that can take your experience where you want it to go. And what we do is we spend the time analyzing every different component. As Juan was explaining, one of the key issues here is identifying what user experience we want to make. If we want it to be just a web-based situation, if we want it to be an extended solution where we go to different devices, if it's going to be specific games, because when we talk about gamification, in many cases it ends up including actual games, actual mini games that entice the user, that take the user to the next level, that lets them identify themselves with a brand. This involves creating a unified view across all of these different interfaces. If we want to support any of these interfaces or all of them, we need to understand what our core services need to be. Our core services need to support the concept of the player, the concept of their avatar. If we want the standard solutions like badges, leaderboards, avatars, and whatnot, we know we need to incorporate this here, but we also go a little bit further. We include marketing concepts. We include community content. In the case of Planet X, for instance, one of the cool things is allowing both the marketing department to send videos and expose content to users, as well as letting the users create content and expose it to the whole community. That creates a very rich back and forth, and the core service layer or the core set of services that empower this sort of platform that will support our solution needs to have that in mind. Sorry. One of the next key features or key components that have to be leveraged here is analytics. Whenever we do a gamification approach, whenever we try to attack a gamification solution or a gamified alternative, we want to get something out of the users. If we want to get something out of the users, if we want to get them more engaged, we need to understand how to measure how engaged they are. So we need to build a robust analytics solution that allows us to query this and to do the business intelligence that we need. And it even allows us to predict things, not just reading what happened, but trying to understand our users to the point where we can think like they do and we can be one step ahead of them. If we understand how they incorporate our brand, then we can understand how we can sell them new things, how we can send new things to them, how we can entice them for our new product, how we can keep them along the ride. And then it goes social. Nowadays, we all live in a very social world, but in a social world that has gone to the internet, that has gone beyond what we do with our next door neighbor. We all use Twitter or we all use Facebook. We all leverage those kinds of solutions with our different interfaces to get not only to our users, but to try to expand, to get more people, just as Juan was saying, to try to share with them the different things that we like, the different things that we find appealing. One of the other building blocks is the catalog. Sadly, we're all businesses. Even most of you people here in the call are probably part of a different business, and businesses need to sell at some point, need to get a return of investment. And this is where the catalogs come in. We use catalogs for two different concepts. One of them is to sell existing products, but in the case of gamified solutions, sometimes we leverage catalogs as they exist on any brick and mortar kind of store. A catalog will help us to add new things to our solutions. If we have an avatar system, we can have in our catalog clothing items for our avatars, boots, flowers, anything that we want to make it bigger, make it better. And with the catalog, we control stock, we control who gets it, and we add and remove things. And we can also make it as extensive to the point that we can limit access by region. We can make it so that a given item is only available in a given region, or if we want to price them, if we want to get specific commerce out of these items that we decide to have, we can put different pricing rules and different content specifications depending on the region. And of course, tied to a catalog system, there usually is a commerce solution. A commerce solution is something really complex, and it's really broad. This is something that we spend a lot of time analyzing whenever we're building a solution, a digital platform. Many customers, many companies already have a commerce solution in place that works fine, in which case what we end up doing is understanding how to take it to the next level. But in some cases, there is nothing in there. And in those cases, what we do is go over everything we're familiar with, every commerce solution that is out there that we've worked with already, and identify which one suits the needs better. All of these solutions are very complex and very diverse, so it's very important to know where we want to take it, to understand which one is the best to use. And last but not least, I'm making my portion short because I don't want us to extend over the hour, and I do want Reed to be able to talk about how we leverage Amazon, AWS for all of this. Last but not least are the tools. As coming from a gaming background, one knows very much how important it is to have customers happy. Customers make or break a game. It's very easy to see when a game launches that if customers are not happy with it on the first few days, they're going to not use it anymore, and they don't really give you a second chance. Hence, one of the things that we are always thinking of is customer support. Even if we put a gamified solution out there, even if we do something as simple as adding leaderboards, we want to have the tools to be able to attend our customers the way they need, the way they deserve. If they have a complaint of not being on the proper place in the leaderboard, we want to have the support to solve whatever issues they have. Of course, there is administration. I mentioned content, user-generated content, our content, catalog. There are a lot of different items that as a provider, as a company, one needs to be able to toy with. One needs to be able to change them, to adjust them. In the case of user-generated content, one needs to be able to prove the content, to invalidate content. Some people might upload offensive content. And then there's the dashboards that enable us to view all of the analytics results, enable us to do all of the analysis on the data that we collect across all these different interfaces and across the whole experience. All of this ends up being a really, really complex set of software components that are put together to build the platform and the structure that allows us to empower all of these solutions that we want. In our case, as said, we're targeting this specifically for gamification, but what we do once we have everything together, once we know what we want to build, is understand how to make this cost effective and how to make this available for everybody in the regions that we want to target. And this is where we leverage Amazon. And now I'm going to give it to Reed so that he can take it from here.
Thanks, Carl. So now that you've designed and developed this great experience for your customers, you're probably going to want to reach as many of them as possible, and likely your customers are global. So you'll want to access a provider that has global infrastructure. And so we have 9 different global regions, and I'm happy to announce, if you haven't heard, that just a few days ago we launched a new region in Sydney, Australia, our 9th. You'll also want to make sure that your experience reaches across every device. And cloud computing is perfect for enabling cross-platform engagement. You can get your customers to interact with our services through either web or thin mobile clients, or even if you want to have more of the experience on the mobile device, you could just be interacting with some of our managed database services in the back end. And so services like S3 to store your video and images and logs, services like EC2 for auto-scaled web servers, elastic load balancing to handle scale, and of course content delivery to deliver all that rich media of these experiences to your customers and delivering them fast. So one aspect of gamification is the social aspect. And so while of course you're going to build a experience that is a huge success, it may be even much more successful than you predicted due to the viral nature of these types of applications. And so what happens is if you plan for, traditionally if you had hardware to support, let's say 1 million users of this experience, and then all of a sudden it started taking off due to the viral nature of social media, you would be forced to just try to rush hardware in, but it can be really, really hard to keep up with that type of growth. And with AWS, this isn't a problem. You can just match the resources you need to the demand for your application, and just follow right up along that line as that line increases in real time, rather than trying to rush and make your application run well for your customers. This also takes your engineering time away from the experience, which you'll be wanting to monitor and improve, and we'll talk a little bit more about analytics. Because when you launch this experience, you're really just getting started and continually to deliver an even better experience for your customers. So one of the things that really helps you stay up with this line, it's really two things. It's auto-scaling and elastic load balancing. And that blue icon you see in the center there, that's elastic load balancing. And so that's our service that ensures that as load increases on your application, that it's distributed evenly amongst your different web servers or application servers. What auto-scaling does is as you increase, it will then, based off of the rules that you set, it will then, maybe give another example there. So let's say that you know that your web tier is going to be bound by compute or CPU. You can set a rule with auto-scaling that says when CPU utilization of my servers hits 75%, spin up another server. You can also say when it falls back down below 50%, turn off another server. And so you can really move even up and down with your different, with your application. And by automating that type of scale of your web and app tiers, again, you don't have to focus on it anymore. You can start focusing on the data you're collecting, the analysis of that data to continually improve the experience for your customers. Another aspect is you're going to have a data tier with these experiences. And we offer 2 managed database services. Amazon RDS is for relational databases, and the ones that RDS supports is MySQL, SQL, and Oracle. And RDS will do backups and patching and a lot of the administrative work that you would take on if you were running the database yourself. Amazon DynamoDB is a NoSQL database, so it has a different data structure, a different schema. However, there are significant scale advantages to Amazon DynamoDB and performance advantages. So Amazon DynamoDB will actually give you consistent single millisecond latency performance on reads and writes. And when you're scaling the database, you literally just go to our management console and dial it up as you need more throughput. There is no additional work required. It is a fully managed service. So again, with these types of data systems in place and an auto-scaled web tier, you can really continue to focus on the experience. But you'll also want to make sure that your experience runs fast. You want these experiences to load very quickly, and there's lots of research out there that shows how an experience degrades when pages don't load very quickly. And with these rich media and experiences that are incorporated with social functionality, each one of them is unique and also robust. And so you need to be able to pick the virtual machine that has the right CPU, memory, and networking configurations for you. And so we offer 16 different virtual machine configurations, and you can see them on the screen here as they play out. You know, for your database, a high memory instance may be more appropriate, whereas for your web tier, something like our standard or first-gen standard instances may be more appropriate. And so we have more resources on how to select these, but GlobeOn actually already knows this, and they can help you with that as well. But it helps you get the ones to ensure that your response times to requests from your customers are processed at the speed at which you need them to be processed. IOPS can also be an issue for these types of experiences. They tend to be heavier on the read side more than the write side in these types of workloads. And so having an Amazon relational database that can handle a significant number of read and, in this case, also write requests, and that with even just a couple clicks, you can set up additional read replicas where it will be synchronously replicated to those, or sorry, in this case, asynchronously replicated to those read replicas. And so you could offload some of that read traffic to those read replicas, keep your database running well or even at a smaller level to help improve performance, and it really keeps your applications running fast. We sort of talked about the server-side aspect of latency and performance. This is really now on the download side of latency and performance, and this is actually where 80% of page load times are affected. It's actually on the download side of it. It's really so this is a representation, these 36 locations of Amazon CloudFront. And Amazon CloudFront is our global content delivery network. And so this is where you're caching all of your images, a lot of your HTML, your CSS, and lots of other portions of your application. And so it's right up next to your customer. And so when they make a request, like by clicking something on that app to play a video, that video is really close to them and gets served very quickly, so they have a great experience with the experience that you've provided. And so these experiences also generate a lot of data, such as data from things that you're picking up from social semantics, things that you're picking up from web logs, things that you might be capturing from e-commerce or billing. And you'll need a bunch of places to store this and store this scalably. And so these are some of our services. But you'll also need a place to process it. And in the center is our managed Elastic MapReduce service called Elastic MapReduce. It's our managed Hadoop service, And I'm going to talk to you about a customer who uses this service extensively to ensure that they have a great experience overall for their customers, and that's Yelp. So Yelp stores logs and search terms and many other different types of data that they collect on their website in Amazon S3. And then what they do is they use Amazon Elastic MapReduce to spin up a 200-node cluster of virtual servers, and Amazon EMR integrates very well with Amazon S3 to pull that data. What they then do is they run and analyze those very large data sets with 200 nodes simultaneously, and then the results of that analysis for what their best performing ads or their placement algorithms are then stored back on Amazon S3 to be used for their application. And then one of the advantages of Amazon, again, is you pay only for what you use. So they only pay for the time they used, and they shut the cluster down. And then any of their engineers can then, when they give them access, can then access that data, use Amazon Elastic MapReduce, and run these ad hoc queries. And this would be a great use of engineering time versus, we'll say, managing infrastructure, which is thinking about ways that your customers might be interacting with the experience, and then giving them, empowering them to then run these analyses, which can then impact future enhancements or ways that you could, again, improve engagement for your customers. So to leverage really this global scale and reliability and performance of AWS, GlobeOn can really help you set that up as well. So GlobeOn, as they talked about the experience that they can help you provide with, the tool sets and the software that they've already developed and the expertise they have in-house for these experiences. They also have significant experience with Amazon Web Services. And so they can help you leverage what we just talked about and all those services to then bring a really high performance and engaging experience to your customers, and with the analytics that you can continually analyze once you've launched that experience to make it even better. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending. We have a few minutes left for Q&A, and so I think I'm turning it back over to Wanda.
Yes, thank you, Reed. Okay, so thank you, all of the speakers, for your time. We have some questions that were posted. I think the first of all says, how do you uniquely identify users? I believe that's for Carolina Dolan.
Hey, so it's actually a very complex question. It depends on whether you're talking to how do you identify them to target them, or how do you identify them within the system. If it's just within the system, usually what you do is simplify this by allowing a federated ID mechanism. That way you can have a single user to you as in your system, while allowing this person to act with all their different IDs, such as their Facebook ID, their Twitter ID, their custom ID to your system, or their Xbox Live ID. But then when it comes to gathering analytics, what happens is sometimes even though you don't have you do have the federated ID, people will use different users because they want to do different things, or they want to appear as different people. So what you do is once you define your data model, once you define your logic for your analytics, you try to identify similar patterns that you will determine that this person is a unique user, even though you have multiple users for them.
Okay, thank you, Caro. The second question says, how long does it take to come up with a gamified experience? I believe that's for Juan Pereira.
Yes. Well, it varies, but just to give you an idea, it's something that we embed within the experience design. So sometimes we just try a few ideas and try a few concepts to see how they behave with the target that we have. That might be, we might do that in couple 2 weeks iterations. So within a month we could try stuff with our users. Basically what we always want is to get the experience as quickly as possible to the user to be able to iterate on it. If it's a more complex overall experience inside the platform, of course that takes much longer in terms of the development of the platform and integration with other services. And I think, Caro, you maybe want to comment something on there on the architecture side of things, but it will take what a normal other project would take in terms of just experience design. Or cycle, initial cycles is around 3 months usually for the experience design part.
Okay, thank you, Juan. The next question says, what kind of analytics do you normally build in your solutions? I think that's for Carolina.
Well, usually you try to be as extensive as possible. There's a basic analytics where you simply know where your user is going, but once you start including games to this, or once you start evolving the experience a little bit, you want to include to note things like how long do they spend on specific features, which features are going are being successful, which features are not. You try to get as much info as possible. It always has to be a tailored thing. It's always going to depend on what you have. So it's a very difficult question to answer here on the fly.
Yeah, and you just one more detail to that. You will always want to correlate whatever you got from the analytics framework with the data that you get from the usability process. So at the end of the UX process, you have the usability section, which is an iterative process that goes forever, effectively improving the platform. And there you have user-based testing and a few other tools. And you will always want to correlate that with information that you get from the hard analytics measurements.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the other one. How does your user experience team work with clients? I believe that's for GlobeOn. Maybe Juan can address that question.
Yes, hello. I was just on mute. That is a good question. So our partners on the client side are usually product managers that want to evolve the experience within with their product. So that's one aspect. If the client is starting working with the platform, usually we provide product management as well. But it's very common that our user experience experts are learning about the product and providing feedback to the product manager or the senior product manager, depending on the size of the project and the product. It's usually we usually start so that the first phase of the process is research, mostly around users, types, personas, etc. And that's something that it's better done on site usually. And so we have a couple of iterations at the beginning with a lot of on-site interaction with our clients. I don't know if you want me, Dan, to delve into any other details, but that's the general view of it.
Okay, thank you, Juan. I'd like to thank you all for your time. We are going to send an email with the recording of this session, so you can download it and share it with whomever you think that might be interested in this topic. And well, we'll be in touch. Please let us know if you have any other question by email. So thank you so much.